always thought betrayal would feel like a slap, like the wind being knocked out of your lungs. But when it arrived, it came quiet, flat, sealed. Just a plain white envelope in the mailbox, tucked between a real estate flyer and a water bill. No return address. No markings. I was standing at the kitchen island, peeling carrots for dinner when I opened it. Our son Evan was upstairs playing Xbox, and our daughter Lily was coloring at the table. The late afternoon sun streaked across the tile floor. It should have been an ordinary day. It would have been if not for what was inside. There was a folded bank statement. Not ours. A joint account I'd never seen before, in my husband's name and a woman's. A name I didn't recognize. The balance? Over $137,000. All deposited in the last 11 months. All withdrawn 2 weeks ago. I blinked. First I thought it was a mistake. Scam maybe. Then I saw the flash drive taped to the back of the statement. My hands were shaking as I peeled it off and plugged it into my laptop. A folder popped up. Vaki_Houston. NYC weekend. Hannah doesn't know. My name. Right there. I clicked the last one first. And that was the moment everything ended. Photos. Voice notes. Emails. Him. And her. Together. Laughing in hotel rooms. Eating oysters by candlelight. Lying in bed, arms tangled. Receipts for expensive perfume, lingerie. Even a payment confirmation for a ring. Not mine. I sat there in silence, heart thudding like a bass drum in my ears. There was even a message saved from her to him. I can't wait until you finally leave her. You promised me before summer. But the thing is, he hadn't just promised her. He'd promised me. We'd been together for 15 years. Married for 12. I supported him when he lost his job. Stayed through the hard years. Smiled through holidays with his cold mother. Gave up promotions to stay home with the kids while he rebuilt his business. And now this. My husband, Noah Whitmore, had a secret life. And someone out there, whoever sent that envelope, wanted me to know. That night I didn't confront him. I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I watched him eat the lasagna I'd made. I watched him kiss our daughter goodnight. I watched him slip into bed beside me like everything was normal. But my heart had shifted. Something inside me went still. I lay there staring at the ceiling and I realized I wasn't going to fall apart. I was going to listen, observe, and wait, because I needed more. If he built a life behind my back, I'd uncover every brick of it. And when I struck back, he'd never see it coming. After that night, I became someone else. Not the Hannah who folded his laundry and packed his lunches. Not the Hannah who waited up when he worked late. I was still there technically, but I'd gone somewhere colder in my head. A place where my heart didn't blink. I spent the next few weeks playing the role. Wife, mother, counselor. But behind the curtain, I was unraveling a truth that had been hidden in plain sight. Noah still kissed me goodbye in the mornings. Still asked if I needed anything from the store. Still tucked our daughter's hair behind her ears and called her Peanut. But he didn't look me in the eye. Not like he used to. He didn't notice the changes, how I stayed up after he went to bed. How I took longer walks. How I checked the mail before anyone else could. One afternoon while Noah was at the gym, I used the information from the bank statement and began reverse searching the woman's name, Camilla Royce. Nothing major came up at first. A few tagged photos on social media. She worked in real estate. Drove a Lexus. A few filtered pictures of brunch and candles and wine. The kind of woman who always posted inspirational quotes, but blurred the line between self-love and someone else's husband. Then I noticed something that nearly made me drop my phone. One of the photos on her Instagram, posted 9 months ago, was in a kitchen I recognized. Not because I'd been there, but because I designed it. That backsplash. The hardware. The farmhouse sink. It was from a renovation project I helped Noah with last year. I remembered the blueprint. He said it was for an investment rental, but he hadn't let me see it in person. Said it was nothing special. He had bought her a house, a home, while we were barely keeping up with our mortgage. I drove there the next morning. Not to confront her. To see it. I told Noah I was heading to the grocery store. The house was only 40 minutes away. In a newer development outside of town. Gated, clean sidewalks, dog walkers with reusable coffee cups. I sat across the street, Engine off, windows cracked. At 11:02 a.m. she walked out. Camilla. She was younger than me by maybe 6 years. Expensive hair, tight jeans, flowy white top, gold bracelets. She climbed into a Lexus SUV and drove off. Then my eyes fell on the mailbox. The nameplate said, Noah and Camilla Whitmore. He gave her his name. I couldn't breathe, couldn't scream, couldn't even cry. I just sat there, stomach turning. I watched the house, our money, shine in the sun. I felt like a ghost watching someone else's life. The next day, I casually asked Noah how his business partner Liam was doing. He tensed slightly, said he hadn't seen Liam in a while. That was a lie. Because Liam's wife Grace is my friend. We'd worked together at the elementary school for 4 years. And 2 weeks before, she told me Liam and Noah had just flown to Phoenix together for some investor retreat. That night, I met Grace at a wine bar under the guise of catching up. After a few glasses of Malbec, I asked her straight, Grace, did Noah ever mention a woman named Camilla? Her eyes flinched. She looked down at her glass and paused too long. What do you know? I asked. My voice was calm. I wasn't desperate. I was past desperate. She whispered, I shouldn't say anything. But, Hannah, I think they've been seeing each other for over a year. I thought you knew. She thought I knew. Grace had known. Liam had known. They'd all kept quiet. I was the only one who didn't get the script. Grace didn't know about the house, though. Or the account. She swore that part was a shock. But the damage was already done. I drove home numb and heavy. My marriage wasn't cracked. It wasn't broken. It was hollow. A carefully preserved shell of what we used to be. And I finally understood. He hadn't just betrayed me with her. He had built a second life and assigned me the role of placeholder. But I wasn't done. Because if he thought he could replace me quietly, he had no idea who I really was. Noah had no idea I knew. He moved around the house like a man untouched, safe in the illusion that his two worlds would never collide. That's what gave me time. That's what gave me power. I didn't yell. I didn't storm out. I smiled. And every smile bought me another hour to prepare his downfall. The first thing I did was pull out our old prenup. I had almost forgotten we had one. Back then, he was just starting his business, and I was the one bringing a stable salary and savings to the marriage. I'd insisted on the prenup because my father had warned me. Protect your future, even from love. Back then, Noah laughed and called it unnecessary. But he signed it. What he didn't know. I never voided the clause that said any hidden assets, extramarital spending, or undeclared real estate purchase during the marriage without my written consent would result in complete forfeiture of his claim to shared property. It was right there, in black ink, with his signature. I made 3 copies, one for my lawyer, one for the safe, one for the fireproof lockbox I hid inside an old suitcase in the attic. Next, I began documenting everything. I screenshotted bank transfers from the flash drive. I recorded his phone calls when he stepped out to take care of business. I tracked his location through the app we still had to monitor Evan's phone. Noah had no idea I still had it enabled on his too. And every lie he told I collected like pearls on a string. Then came the part that nearly made me unravel. I checked the college fund. The one we'd been saving for Evan and Lily since they were born. I was the one who put away birthday money, tax returns, bonus checks. It was down by nearly $30,000. Gone. Transferred into the same account Camilla's name was on. He hadn't just betrayed me. He stole from our children. That night I couldn't sleep. I sat in Lily's room, listening to her gentle breathing, watching the soft nightlight glow against the wall. My chest burned with the kind of pain that doesn't scream, it sears. The next morning I called an attorney. Not just any attorney, Sloan Ritter, a former client of mine from the school system. She was sharp, calculated, and famously discreet. We met in her office 2 towns over. I brought everything. She didn't flinch once as she reviewed it all. When she finished, she leaned back in her chair and said quietly, "He's toast." I almost laughed. Almost. She explained my options. With the evidence I had and that prenup clause, I could walk away with full custody, the house and every shared asset, especially since he used marital funds on an affair. The judge wouldn't even blink. But I didn't want just legal justice. I wanted Noah to feel it. To know the weight of the life he threw away. So we made a plan. Not just to leave, but to let him walk right into his own destruction. I gave myself 4 more weeks. During those weeks, I played the perfect wife. I cooked, I smiled, I asked about his day. I even planned a family barbecue for his birthday and invited our neighbors, Grace and Liam included. He was smug, content, believing he was untouchable. On the day of the barbecue, I watched him laughing at the grill, flipping burgers with his beer in hand, wearing the apron I bought him for Father's Day. And all I could think was, how long have you rehearsed this role? After the guests left, I handed him a small gift, a monogrammed leather key case. He smiled. Thanks, babe. Kissed my cheek. The next morning, I met with Sloan and signed the initial divorce paperwork. It wouldn't be delivered yet. We had to time it right. Because what Noah didn't know, that key case I gave him, it had a tiny GPS tracker sewn into the seam, the same kind law enforcement uses. And 2 days later, it led me directly to a condo in Camilla's name on the north side of the city. A condo I never knew existed. Another nest he built using the money meant for our kids. I didn't confront him. Not yet. I waited until he came home that night, smelling like cologne I didn't buy, lips still glistening from whatever goodbye he gave her. And I kissed him. Not because I loved him, because it was the last kiss I would ever give. And I wanted to remember it, not as love but as closure. The morning I began to unravel Noah's second life for good. It was raining. Not a storm. Just that gray, misty kind that soaks everything slowly. Fitting, I thought. You don't always need thunder to tear something down. Sometimes you just need time and water. I sent the kids to my sister's for the weekend, told Noah they were going for a fun cousin sleepover. He barely looked up from his phone, probably texting her. He had no idea I'd spent the last 3 weeks preparing every detail. That same morning I visited 3 banks. Quietly. Calmly. Sloan had already helped me transfer all legal funds under my name. Anything jointly owned was frozen pending the divorce. The kids' college fund? Secured, locked behind a trust Noah couldn't touch again. The house deed? Also locked. The cars? Title transfers already filed. By lunchtime, Noah was no longer in control of a single thing he believed was his. And by evening, I delivered the next blow. A friend of mine in the school district, technically a data systems admin, owed me a favor. I sent him a folder. Pictures, documents, proof of Noah's double life. I didn't say what to do with it. I didn't have to. By Monday morning, our small community buzzed like a beehive kicked over. Noah had made just enough of a name for himself in local real estate to become a topic of gossip. And gossip in a town like ours spreads faster than wildfire. Camilla's real estate firm took a hit too. Someone sent the same packet to her managing broker. Her photos with a married man weren't good PR for a company that bragged about family values. Still, I never said a word. I let the facts speak. Let the silence do the cutting. Noah came home that Monday pale, irritable, confused. Something's going on, he said, pouring himself a drink. People at work are acting weird. Oh, I said softly, folding laundry. Liam's being cagey. My phone keeps blowing up. Grace even called to ask if I'm okay. Did you say something? I met his eyes. Calm. Measured.
No, honey.
Why would I? He stared at me longer than usual. But he didn't press. Because deep down he didn't believe I had it in me. That night I laid the final groundwork. I scheduled the divorce papers to be delivered during his next business dinner. I booked the same restaurant where he once took me for our 10th anniversary. Ironic but poetic. I reserved the booth across the room. And I wouldn't be alone. When the night came, I dressed in navy blue. Clean, calm. My sister's husband came with me. Not for protection but presence. A familiar face in a sea of confusion. We sat quietly at our table, not speaking much, just sipping wine as we waited. At 6:41 p.m., Noah arrived. Not alone. Camilla on his arm, all white blazer and glossy lips, whispering into his ear like nothing in the world could touch them. He didn't see me. Not right away. But when the server handed him a thick envelope instead of a menu, he frowned, opened it, and then froze. I watched the blood drain from his face. Watched his hands tremble as he flipped through the pages. He looked up wild, scanning the room. That's when he saw me. I raised my glass. His eyes widened. Camilla leaned over to ask something, but he couldn't speak. He just sat there, mouth slightly open, chest heaving like a man who couldn't swim suddenly dropped into the ocean. I didn't wave. I didn't smile. I stood, left enough cash to cover our drinks, and walked out with my head high. I didn't need to see what came next. I already knew. That was the moment everything flipped. Noah was now the one living in fear. Noah was the one who didn't know what tomorrow would bring. Because I wasn't done yet. Not even close. The next stage wasn't about money, or property, or exposure. It was about truth, and making sure he sat in the mess he created until he couldn't breathe through it. 3 days passed before Noah even tried to talk to me. 3 days after the restaurant. 3 days after the server handed him his sins in a neat legal envelope, and I raised my glass like a quiet executioner. When he finally came home, he looked like he hadn't slept. His shirt wrinkled. Eyes dark. A man haunted not by guilt, but by consequences. "Hannah," he said, stepping inside like he wasn't sure if the walls would still let him. "Can we talk?" I was sitting at the kitchen table, going over Lily's science fair board. I didn't look up. "You can talk. I'll listen." He stood there like he was waiting for permission, then finally sat down across from me. He didn't start with an apology. Of course he didn't. Instead he said, "I don't know what you think you know." I let out a short laugh. Not because it was funny, because it was pitiful. "Noah, you transferred money from our kid's future to a woman you've been sleeping with. You bought her property with our income. You gave her your last name. I don't think I know anything. I know everything." He swallowed hard. "It wasn't like that. Wasn't it?" I asked calm and even. "You didn't create a second home with her? You didn't let her call you husband, while your real wife paid the heating bill?" He looked away. That was the thing about men like Noah. They didn't understand the weight of silence. They only understood it when it choked them. "I messed up," he whispered.
No.
"You decided. Over and over. That's not a mistake. That's a pattern." He rubbed his forehead, trying to gather some thread of sympathy. "Camilla's gone," he said quietly. "She left. Her firm dropped her. Her apartment lease was pulled. She blamed me for everything." "Oh," I said, raising an eyebrow. "So now you want what's left?" His voice cracked. "I want my family." That was when I stood up and walked to the counter. I picked up the final envelope I had left, one I hadn't sent to anyone else. It was from a contact Sloan had hired. A forensic accountant. I slid it across the table. He opened it slowly. Inside, documents showing 3 additional accounts under an alias Noah created 5 months prior. 3 more accounts. More money. More deception. He stared at it, lips trembling. "I would have given you everything," I said. "I would have forgiven you if you had come to me in truth. But you lied until your lies got tired of protecting you. And then you lied some more." He looked up, finally desperate. "What do you want me to say?" "Nothing. It's too late for words." That night he left, took a duffel bag and drove off in silence. The next morning I visited my parents with the kids. And for the first time in months I slept. But the final piece fell into place a week later. Grace called me. Her voice was tense. "I think you should know something," she said. "Camilla was pregnant." I felt the air shift in my chest. "She lost it," Grace said. "Right after everything came out. Stress probably. But Noah had promised her he'd leave you before the baby came. That's why she pushed him. So that was it. He wasn't just building a fantasy life. He was preparing to replace our entire family." I hung up the phone, cold to the bone but clear. And still I didn't call him. Didn't confront him. Instead, I did the most unexpected thing of all. I started living again. I reactivated my counseling certification and picked up part-time work at a women's shelter. I joined a local book club. Took the kids camping for the first time without him. I wore lipstick again. Laughed harder. Slept deeper. And every time I checked the mailbox I smiled, because that first anonymous envelope came from someone who saved my life. Someone who knew. Someone who warned me. I never found out who sent it. And maybe I didn't need to, because I wasn't the same woman who peeled carrots in a quiet kitchen anymore. I was someone who survived. Who rebuilt. But the story wasn't over. Because redemption doesn't come from justice alone. It comes from choosing to rise while they fall. And I still had one final card to play. Months passed. Not loud, crashing months, but quiet ones. Healing ones. The kind where you don't even notice you're becoming whole again until someone says, "You look lighter." And they're right. Noah stayed silent after he left. Not a single message.
No begging. No threats.
Just absence. I think he thought I'd cool off, call him back, ask him to come home. But I never did. The divorce moved fast. Sloan was a hurricane in heels. Because of the prenup and the evidence, Noah forfeited everything. The house? Mine. The cars? Mine. Custody? Full, though I offered supervised visitation for the kids' sake. The accounts were locked. The judge showed no sympathy, especially after we submitted evidence of the college fund withdrawals. He tried to play the victim, but truth doesn't stutter when it's documented. Camilla vanished from town completely. Grace later told me that she had family out west and moved in with a sister. Noah had tried reaching her, but she blocked him. So now he had nothing.
No lo ver.
No family. No home. Only the echo of the life he dismantled with his own hands. And that's when I sent him the final envelope. No return address, just like mine had come. Inside. A letter. You asked me once what I wanted you to say. But I don't want words. I want silence. The kind you left me with when you chose someone else behind my back. The kind I endured when I thought I was going crazy. The kind that held my children's laughter, while you whispered lies in another woman's ear. So now I'm giving that silence back to you. No second chances.
No closure.
Just consequences. And I included one more thing. A copy of the final court order. Stamped. Signed. With bold letters across the top. Full custody. All assets retained by petitioner. Noah never responded. I heard through a mutual friend that he was living in a one-bedroom rental near the outskirts of town. Taking odd jobs. Driving a dented pickup. Alone. I won't pretend it gave me joy. But it gave me peace. One rainy Saturday, I sat at the edge of the local park watching Lily ride her bike and Evan kick a soccer ball. The sky was overcast but warm. A familiar sort of gray. And I realized I didn't miss the man I married. Because the man I thought I loved had never truly existed. He was a story I told myself. A dream I held onto long after it stopped breathing. But me? I was real. I rebuilt. I rose. I protected my children. I reclaimed my voice. And in the end, my revenge wasn't fire or fury. It was something far more devastating. It was moving on without him. I never told anyone who sent that first envelope. But I carry it in my wallet to this day, creased and faded, a reminder that sometimes the people who betray you the deepest hand you the tools you need to break free.